I'm Janelle Moos. I'm the Executive Director for Cause North Dakota. We're a membership-based nonprofit organization in Bismarck that consists of all the 20 domestic violence and rape crisis centers across the state. Well, early on we heard stories from primarily the shelters in the western part of the state say they were having women that were coming in, and they were primarily coming in because they'd been sexually assaulted or physically assaulted. But as they were there either in the shelter or just receiving services from one of our providers, they started to identify other almost red flags, things that really highlighted our programs to see that there was more to their story, that it wasn't just that they'd been physically or sexually assaulted. There was much more going on in these women's lives. And so they started to come to us and said, you know, we're starting to hear more stories from women that we're sheltering or providing services, and we don't know if it is human trafficking, but we think that it is, so could you help us, you know, provide some training for us, help us start to learn more about what human trafficking is, how to identify the risk factors for human trafficking, and so we can provide a better service to the women that are coming to our centers. So I think any crime that's violent like this, sexual assault, domestic violence, is largely underreported. Victims often don't see themselves as victims. They're there for a specific instance. So I need a protection order, or I need an attorney, or I need a safe place to stay tonight. They don't necessarily come in self-identifying as someone that's a victim of crime. So I think any crime like this is really hard to get a solid number on, but I think we can't ignore all of the women that are coming into shelter and starting to receive services for the immediate crisis in their life, but as they're involved with our advocacy services and they start to really identify more longer-term trauma and other things that they're experiencing in their life currently, that's when we start to keep track of how many victims are coming into our services. But you know, it's really hard to look at our numbers, to look at law enforcement numbers, and to compile a number that gives us the full scope of human trafficking. But I think we'll get there in the future. But right now we're just doing our best to provide the services for folks that are coming forward. I think there's really going to be a large focus on making sure that our laws are pretty tight in terms of what our prostitution language is, what does our human trafficking statute look like, and how does that match with the uniform law and also state and federal laws, so that we're really strengthening our laws so there aren't any loopholes that women could fall through or kids could fall through with this. And the other thing is really making sure that there's a cohesive message, that we're all working together. It's not just advocacy, it's law enforcement working together, that we develop a statewide response to really identify the structural issues that are happening in the state and make sure that we're equipped to handle the long-term, you know, effects that traffickings have on these victims and also in communities.